Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this template development where we are creating a rental/loaning platform where you can manage and register items that have been loaned out to persons. Okay, so previously we had checked out the database, we had created our initial applications, we had also created here a folder structure, and in the previous video we had just modified the persons applications. So in this video we will continue now with the objects. Okay, so I'll click here the checkbox at the bottom here and then go ahead and click here the edit button, and that will go ahead and open each of these applications for me, ready for me to make adjustments. So let's go ahead and start here first of all with the form family objects, as it's the first application that was opened. And we have this here as a multiple record form. So let's go ahead and run that, and then we can see what that looks like. And there we have it with our ID, a multiple edit. So whenever we make adjustments here, for instance, if I add some extra content in here, the checkbox here will be highlighted or indicated or checked, and that will then update the relevant field. In this case, we don't really need that right now. We want to leave these as they are, but of course we do want to make some adjustments here. So returning back to our form application, the first thing I'll do is jump here into the settings, and as you know, 100% for the width of the grid, and we want to make adjustments here to the fields also. So here I have an ID and a name. Now I could keep the ID there. In some cases it may be a good idea to keep this ID. In this one I'm going to remove it and just leave the name. Okay, so like that. If I go ahead and run the form again, we then just have the name indicated for each family object. Okay, so then we have here our unique key. And here we want to have the name as a unique key so that we do not have any duplicates added. So then now if I would go ahead and add a new tools, for instance, and add that, it will actually give me an error for that. Tell me that, of course, that I can no longer use this as it is already available. So returning back here to our application again, we want to also make some adjustments here to the dependencies. So choosing here the dependencies, again, we can change the message type, whether it rolls back or whether it performs a cascade delete. The choice is really yours in many cases. In this case, we will leave it so it displays an error message. But I will go ahead here and click the edit option and go next again, and then check here that we have here our family objects, which is the ID, which is an integer, and then the family ID, which is then also an integer. But here I will want to adjust the error message that is displayed when somebody tries to delete one of these objects. So here I would say this family of objects has children. Okay, cannot delete. Okay, just like that. And of course we can add any error message in there. So I'll save that, and that will then give us a custom error message for that when we try and delete one of these objects, which then has children within here, our form objects. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that again. And that should be pretty much done for this form. It's pretty a simple form. And let's go ahead then and close this one. Okay, so then we can continue with the form objects form, and here we have a single record. So let's come first of all here to the settings and adjust as per usual the table width here to 100%. Now most times I also set the vertical alignment because that removes then the padding that we have or margin that we have around those applications. But in this case today I'm actually leaving that. So let's jump then here to the edit fields. And here within the edit fields, we have then the ID, the name, the family ID. So let's remove there the ID from the family, the photo, state, and active. So I'm going to drag the ID down here. In most cases, it's not needed. Of course, you can leave it there if you wanted to. That is entirely up to you. But in this case, I'm not going to. So here for the family ID, we already have a select field there. For the photo, let's change that already then to here an image file name. The state will be a label. We will deal with that shortly, but we don't need that on insert. So we can remove that when we insert a new object. And then we also have here the active status, which we actually want to have as a checkbox. So selecting those fields will then automatically be configured, and it also saves a little time from changing it individually per field. So let's come here first of all to the family ID. And here, let's just make sure that we have that selected correctly. Family objects name, that's okay. We can then choose the connection, the database connection that we are using. It's definitely advisable to have that selected for your fields. And then also for the photo, we need to add here a path as well as some adjustments for this image. So let's set here first of all the image height and width to 100 pixels. We want to maintain the aspect ratio and so forth. There's an upload area which we want to have, and we also want to enable here the clickable upload area, because that will then remove the button and allow then a drag and drop of those images. So then we also have here a subdirectory for the local images, and of course that we want to then place inside of a folder. So that will just call the folder objects/, and in case the folder is not available, which is typically the case when you first deploy your project, you will for sure want to create that subfolder. Okay, so that is something then that I have then also checked. Now at the bottom here, I can also limit the file extensions. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's only JPEGs that are allowed, and a maximum of 2 megabytes, which is a massive JPEG. And then I will also add that in uppercase to ensure that, you know, if there is a JPEG image with lowercase or uppercase extensions, then both of them will be accepted. So I will save that, and then we'll come here to the state. And for the state, we will set that as a label field, and the active status here, which is then the final field here to adjust. We have that set as a checkbox already. Let's enable also the use switch. It looks a little nicer. And then we have here the lookup settings. Now we want to set that as manual, and then also choose a single value, as it is a single value that will be entered. And here we call that active, and the state is yes or no. And then we can insert that, and that will then be available for that switch function. Okay, so if we then go ahead and run that again, we can see then our form. Now I may actually want to adjust here the title here. So let's go ahead and remove that title from there, and then run that again. And then we only have that title displayed on our checkbox, like so. So it just says active here, and of course we can then enable or disable the activity of that. We have here the state as a label, and then we have here also the images which are already available within our application here. Okay, and of course we have the family here. Now notice the family is also using the select to box, because then we can actually type in here and it will choose the element. To adjust that, if that's something you want to do, because in this case, you may only have a few family objects, you may not want to use that, and for that you can remove here the use select to, and if I uncheck that, for instance, and run that form again, then within the form, instead of having the drop down with a search functionality, it is just a very basic drop down menu. Now of course we can just go back to our application and enable that again, and that will then once again enable that feature for us. And again, we could then go ahead and perform search in here, which may be a little easier for the family objects you have, if you have many of them, of course. So we'll leave that as it is for now, and we can navigate through that beautifully and see really nicely how that then already works. Okay, so now let's jump into our grid objects, which is then the grid application. And here we don't really need to have the detail, summary, chart, the search. We can leave the search. In fact, I'll uncheck it. We don't really need that. I'm going to go ahead and save that and run that as it is now. And of course, I'm removing the search because we still have the quick search here. And if you click on that, you have various options here to choose the various columns, as well as search conditions that you can apply. So that already includes a search. And of course, we can even remove that if we wanted to. But I think in this case, a search would be very important. Okay, so because we created the grid and form in combination during the Express creation, we have this already linked with our object form. And as we indicated, the status is no longer displayed there, which is great, on insert. And of course, we can go ahead and then add new objects. We also then have the edit functionality here, which is then also available for that. Okay, so let's modify then this grid application so that it's a little nicer, of course. And I think I'm going to leave the ID here because in this case, maybe it's a good idea to have the ID. I'll adjust here the family photo. We need to change that again to an image file name. And all of the other options here, we can pretty much leave them as they are. So let's go ahead and save that. And then here, returning to the fields option, let's adjust here first of all the family ID because we have no lookup here right now, and we actually want the title displayed instead of the ID because right now we have here the ID displayed. And if I just choose here an automatic setup, I'll create the lookup and choosing the family objects, the name, and again the database connection, and then running that again, that would then give us here the family title instead of the ID, just like so. Okay, so we still need to adjust here the photo. We need a path there, and maybe would want to also decide on a size for that. So maybe 100 pixels again. And then at the bottom here, we have here the subdirectory for local storage. So don't forget to then add then the path for those images. And if I go ahead and run that now, we will then also have the images displayed within this grid application. Okay, so I forgot one important factor, and that is, of course, the 100% width. And we apply that here within the grid modules, choosing the grid module. And then at the bottom here, I can then add the width 100 and indicate %. And that will then make that grid nice and wide. And of course, we can adjust that. If you don't like that, then of course you can change that to any sort of width that you wanted. 100 pixels, 500 pixels, maybe 100 pixels a little too small, but you get the idea. Okay, so we have then our objects grid ready. We have here the name, the family, the availability, and everything is then displayed here. Now, one extra feature we want to add to this, because we removed the main search, maybe to have a refined search would be a nice feature. So let's come back here to the grid application. And at the bottom here, we have the refined search option. And if I click on that, select fields, I can then choose, for instance, here the family ID, the state, as well as then the status, so active status, and save that. And then those options will then be enabled. And then we have now then the edit field options that becomes available to us. So here we have the see more option. I don't think we need that really for the state and active. If we have more family objects, then it would be definitely good to maintain that. Okay, so with that saved, we can go ahead and run that grid again. And now we see we have this nice little refined search on the side here. We can see straight away which books are, or which objects are available, which ones are active, and which ones are inactive, and so on. And of course, we can even organize via the family. Okay, so that's it for this part of the template. We will continue within the next section where we will continue with our remaining items.